Hello everyone, I'm Griffin and we are back with another reaction video. This time we are reacting to, once again, another Brett Cooper video. This one is how men and women really feel about modern feminism. Now, I think modern feminism is a joke. It's been nothing but misandry and a fucking joke. I mean, the women in this modern feminism are fighting for nothing but superiority at this point. They're not. I mean, the first generation basically fought for their right to get a job and, you know, be the breadwinner themselves as well. And the next generation basically fought for the right to vote, which most women did not want the right to vote because it came with the stipulation of being drafted into the military until they were exempt from that and given the right to vote. And now this modern feminism, I don't even know what they're fighting for. They're not fighting for equality. So let's see how this goes. Let's see what people think.
Welcome back to another episode of Off the Clock. We talk about feminism a lot here. I think you guys know how much I dislike third wave feminism. And one of my main complaints is that modern day feminism is not about equality of the sexes. It is about hierarchy. It is about power over one of the sexes. It is about females having power over men because they feel like they deserve it after years of living under this patriarchy. In addition to that, I also dislike the fact that feminism is no longer just about women and men, but it is about anything and everything, and it's so intersectional and it's so great. So I'm interested to know what happens when you insert men into the mix. What do feminists actually think about men in the context of feminism? We're going to talk about that today, but before we do, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section or Off the Clock episode.
Are men trash?
Oh, cis, heterosexual men, absolutely, especially white men.
What rights do you think that men have that women don't today?
A woman can still walk a street and not feel protected versus a man can.
Women are probably like underrepresented.
Like, it started off with great intent, but you have people who abuse the system.
A hatred of masculine energy.
The thing is, there are no rights in modern day society that men have that women don't. None. Every right that a man has, a woman also has. Any feminist that tells you otherwise is a fucking idiot and a liar. Plain and simple.
It's like anti-men.
Today I'm out here and I'm asking, is feminism still relevant in today's society?
Yeah, absolutely. If anything,
It's
more
not.
relevant now than it ever was.
Yeah, I would say
Nope.
feminism's
Really?
It's really not.
Today, when we have all the same rights, not back when we couldn't own property, couldn't go to school, couldn't vote, couldn't have a job, when we were killed because people thought we were witches. But it's more relevant today because you can't kill your own baby.
We built this country, men, but women at the same time got to supply more men, right? With no women, the world doesn't go round.
That's very true, but you know what? You can't do that without men as well. That guy's actually based because he's talking about repopulation.
The the thing is, if a lot of these feminists who say kill all men and get what they want, the world real fucking quick would die. Because the majority, and I mean the majority of the infrastructure of the world is kept up by men. Either way, either gender disappears from this planet, humanity's going to go extinct real fucking quick.
And having families, the nuclear family.
If you look at like domestic abuse, for instance, we know that it happens to people of all genders, but it seems to be like disproportionately like affecting women.
Is feminism still relevant in today's society?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. They put up with a lot of bullshit. They pull up with sexual harassment. They put up with a whole lot of bullshit that us men just don't have to deal with.
What is that hair? Who are you? I can't even listen to anything he's gonna say.
Feminism started out as women's rights, and now it has skewed into something entirely different than what it was.
Are we going too far? Did we do this and all the rest of it?
It has strayed away from its initial purpose, its original intent. It has strayed so far off the path that it has gone off the cliff and nosedived into the ground.
That instead of being angry.
Now it's morphed into something that's more preaching like a superiority over men kind of stance. Like, I work with some people who would consider themselves heavy feminists, and they are constantly dogging on men, and they openly say, I hate men.
I like her tattoo. I like her tattoos. These are actually really cool. This tattoo here, I've heard the tattoo right around, you know, like like right around here. Actually, I've heard it hurts a whole hell of a fucking lot because it's literally right on the ribs. I've heard it hurts so. I can't remember if it was. I think it was this tattoo that I went to get. Can't really see it that well. But I think it was that one, or I think it was this one. I can't remember which one. But when I went to get one of those tattoos, there was this woman over there. She was basically getting her tattoo in this same area finished up. It looked gorgeous. It looked so good. But I heard her screaming the entire time. I couldn't tell if she was screaming or moaning the way she was going. But it sounded like it was so fucking painful. But I've heard that's one of the most painful areas to get a tattoo is right around that midsection area.
Feminists, and they are constantly dogging on men, and they openly say.
But her tattoos are cool. I like them.
Say that as long as men are alive, feminism is always going to be relevant.
Why?
Because men.
It's like today we're more polarized than ever before, and if men and women can't get along, it can only hurt society.
Yep.
These guys' videos are so sweet.
They consider us a hate group.
The patriarchy.
But in today's lack of nuance, is it considered sexist to even question the topic? And if I had to be honest with myself, could I do it without my own bias? I guess we gon' see. What rights do men have today that women don't?
Oh, let's go down the list. A woman can still walk a street and not feel protected versus a man can.
I think we all have equality.
Technically, more often than not, men are the victims of violence when going down a street by themselves. More men are victims of violence than women. That has been a proven fact. More men are victims of violence than women. So what she says there is initially wrong.
When it comes to laws.
Men are able to walk out maybe in whatever they want to wear, or, you know, be able to stand strong through societal pressure.
That's so freaking weird. Men are able to stand strong in the midst of societal pressure. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a positive thing? Isn't that masculinity? Do you want all of us to be weak? Do you want all of us to be cucked by the government and not able to withstand any of life's hardships? If you're saying that women can't do that, then why is your solution to shame the only people that are doing that successfully? Why don't we learn from them? Or why don't we rely on them? Men do this better. That's why we need feminism.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
That sounds like a you problem, honey. If you can't withstand it, that's not about the rest of us. Also, there's a lot of comments in here about, like, well, women can't walk the streets, all of that stuff. The world is a dangerous place. Men get mugged too. Men get assaulted. Men get into fights. Obviously, women are greater targets. We are smaller framed. We are easier to attack. There obviously are terrible people in the world who want to harm others. That is a fact. You're not just going to change that by screaming about feminism. Assaulting people is illegal. Stealing from people is illegal. Rape is illegal. It's all illegal for both men and women. The difference is that men are physically bigger. They usually are able to protect themselves better. They are not easier targets. So women, the only thing that you can do is not march in the streets and scream about something that you literally cannot change because the laws are already in place to treat us equally, is to learn to defend yourself, to be self-reliant, to learn to carry a gun maybe, to make yourself not a target, to get your head out of your damn phone when you're walking and be aware of your surroundings. That's a very simple thing to do that does not involve...
There was actually a time when I tried exercising when I lived with my dad. The only time I was able to go for a walk was when it was completely dark out. And what I would do is take a regular belt and loop my giant knife onto it. So when I would walk, I would have a weapon with me just in case someone wanted to attack me. Now, I don't think someone would because, you know, in the state I live in, we're pretty peaceful. You know, besides what happened in Minneapolis. So I'd stay away from that. Minneapolis and St. Paul, they're like the most dangerous place in the state. That and St. Cloud too. But where I was living is pretty peaceful, so I probably didn't really need to have a knife with me. But still, it made me feel safer to have it with me because I had something to defend myself. Even as a man, I needed something to defend myself because I don't trust a lot of people out there in the public.
Screaming about how you hate men and rallying in the streets.
Loud noises!
I think you have to accept this for pregnancy, right? There's no law saying employers can't like fire you if you're pregnant. Or like abortion, for instance, like that's a law that like only affects women, right?
All right, here's the thing. For at-will states, or whatever they're called, they can fire you for any legal reason. If it is of a reason that is legal, they can fire you. If it is not of a legal reason, then they can get in a lot of trouble for firing you.
But don't you think that's just kind of explained by like biological differences?
But why does that justify making a law anyway that literally discriminates women?
And so biological differences lead to different treatments and reality.
That is key. Biological differences lead to a different reality. It's like the women who claim that they're oppressed because they can get pregnant. It's like, okay, you can't even claim that that is oppression. That's fact. That is the life that you were given. You can't change it. Rallying in the street, it's not going to change it.
But wanted to take a different view on this topic of equality. Do you think today that women have certain privileges that men don't have?
Yeah, part of that goes into being able to say certain things that, you know, men would get scolded for.
They can just talk completely out of their ass freely. You're not allowed to say nothing back.
Do you think, let's say, like, do men have problems that, let's say, that women don't experience? For example, in statistics, like, men have higher rates of suicide, and, you know, obviously men die more when it comes to, like, wars.
Women can go to war.
Yeah, but how about, like,
Women can go to war.
it's true. Who's overwhelmingly going to war and dying in wars?
Men. I'm not gonna argue that.
I like that laugh.
Yeah, women can go to war. Do you want to go, lady? Standing there with your soft serve frozen yogurt? Are you wanting to?
I'm sorry, but the majority of men don't even want to go to war. But we kind of have to.
Go, or when a draft happens, are you going to be happy that you're a woman and that you weren't drafted?
I feel like the war thing is a little hard to get into just because for the majority men are going to war. It's not really women going to war, so of course more men die.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like that's just because it's kind of like the roles that society portrayed forever ago. Men are warriors and men are the ones that are fighting, and then women.
Do you think more women should go into war then?
Absolutely not. No woman should ever go into any military.
But wouldn't that be going against equality if you're barring women from going into the military then?
Well, I'm not saying barring, but I'm saying like I feel like as a woman you should know that you're not going to be putting yourself in a healthy situation going into the military, because like it's harder to be a woman in the military than it is to be a man.
Okay, this guy is actually realizing that there are differences between men and women. He's almost there. He's getting there. He kind of tripped himself up, and I'm appreciating it. Because he's like, oh no, actually, no, women should not go to war.
I think that feminism is also, it's almost an excuse for behavior. Flashing your tits or something like that, you know, behaviors like that. Like, but if a guy wanted to pull just his balls out, you know, it would be a little less socially accepted.
Do you think in this sense that men have less privilege today than women?
Privilege is all kind of like how you look at it, what you're looking for. I think I'm pretty privileged. A lot of black people probably don't say they're privileged, so that's kind of how I look at it. We need to just stop looking and thinking everybody got greener grass and kind of just accept the fact we're not in a third world country,
Yes.
you know, with Russia invading us or some bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, life ain't that bad. It's 78 and sunny out. Chill the fuck out.
And you're high as shit right now, aren't you?
I'm cooked.
I like that guy. He has a good sense of humor, and he's fucking baked.
High as shit, and he's still based.
Now, I don't know what to exactly make of what I'm about to explain to you next, but it may explain what's happening with society today. An experiment called Universe 25 created a mice paradise with an abundance of food and water. The aim was to study behavior over a time period in an attempt to explain human societies. And it was all good, but after 315 days, something unexpected happened. The population reached 600 and a hierarchy was formed with larger rodents starting to attack and cause male rodents to collapse psychologically.
Under those conditions, social behavior broke down.
This led to a new class of males called beautiful males who only care for food and sleep, and isolated aggressive females who didn't want to reproduce. And eventually, the society collapsed because of the lack of reproduction and lack of care for their young. And the scary part is that after repeating this experiment 25 times, the same results were observed over and over again. A viral Facebook post drew parallels to today's society with weak, feminized men with no protection instincts and overly aggressive females with no maternal instincts.
We need to kill all men.
It's a bit of a stretch.
So good.
Is it possible that that's what's happening in the West today?
Yes.
Is the negative reaction of feminism coming from the fact that not only are women struggling, but also men? Let's take a closer look and see what this really means. May I ask you, like, what are some, like, examples of misogyny that you faced?
Oh, let's see. I went through
This girl is so confident. Every question, oh, let me take you through it. Oh my God, yes. And then what does she say? Literally jack shit. Men are better at struggling.
There was one time, I'm a psychology major. We were tasked with counting how many times we got catcalled. I realized every time during that month I went to a gas station at nighttime, I got catcalled.
I've seen some of my guy friends literally make 30 grand more than some of my girlfriends, and just because they're men.
But let's say that the pay gap does exist. Why wouldn't firms just hire women then?
They have to find probably quotas at this point.
Do you think there's quotas for men?
No, probably not.
See, here's the thing that a lot of people who think this, okay, let's say a lot of the feminist community think about this pay gap or wage gap. It doesn't exist. If it did exist, then companies would just hire women because they could pay them less and save money. They don't, because they can't. It is illegal. Since the 60s, I think it was 65 or 66, somewhere around there. Since the 60s, it has been illegal for any company, private or public, to pay a person different based on gender. There are so many nuances and so many factors that go into pay that these people do not seem to understand and can't seem to get through their thick fucking skull. It doesn't exist in the way that the feminists think. Now, there is a pay gap, yes, because the majority of men are in the more dangerous, high-paying jobs. Because men prefer to work with things, whereas women prefer to work with people. Now, most of the jobs that work with things are more hazardous and dangerous for people to work in. So therefore, they are of higher pay. Whereas these women are choosing to go into the jobs that work with people, like psychology, teacher, nurse, or whatever, that are statistically of lower pay than these more dangerous jobs that the men go into. Now, if these women want to make more money, then go into the more dangerous jobs. But there are a lot more factors that go into this pay gap thing than just gender, which doesn't exist.
A lot more men in power in the top 1%. A lot of the women are the ones left in the dust.
There's definitely, like, in the top 1%, I think there's definitely more men, for sure. But
a lot of this feminist thing, they're like hyper focused on these hyper successful men, which aren't very, like, in the top 1%. The majority of men aren't even in these positions of power or money.
But let's say, like, in the bottom, right? Like, most suicides are men. You know, most people with depression are men. Do we sometimes ignore that to maybe showcase disparities where it might not exist?
Yes, men do have a disadvantage at that point.
So is it fair to say then that both genders at this point maybe have disadvantages in certain situations, but when it comes to the law, they're pretty equal and even opportunities?
Yes, it does have that societal influence more from a social standpoint. It's not necessarily what is placed in the law, but it has everything to do with how people interpret the law for themselves.
What? That's my truth. No, I don't give a crap about your truth. It's the law. Oh yeah, well, we have equal...
I hate it when people say, well, this is my truth. You can have your truth all you want. There is your truth, and then there is the truth. There's no such thing against the truth. You can have your truth all you want. If it's not the truth, then it's not true. I fucking hate that. It's like, well, this is my truth. Well, bitch, fuck off. Your truth is not the truth. Fuck you.
Right, but that's not how people interpret it. No, oh my God, you're creating problems. You're turning yourself into a victim. You're claiming that you are oppressed so that you still have a reason to be angry. So that everything that you've spent the last, few years, you young person, screaming about doesn't crumble in front of you. You want to feel like you have a purpose. You want attention, and you get attention by being a victim. So you're creating these problems You just said it yourself.
It's not necessarily what is placed in the law, but it has everything to do with how people interpret the law for themselves.
However, I did hear though, like for every male college grad, there's 2 women college grads. And I believe most college students are actually women. So I guess what would you say to that?
I know that women are probably like underrepresented in like the military or in trade school, so men might find more interest in doing that instead of like getting a bachelor's. So like that's like a whole career path that like women really aren't being encouraged.
There are a lot less people going into the trade skills nowadays than there are for any other thing. A lot of people are thinking that to get the higher paying jobs that they need to go for like this 4+ year degree, where statistically going for a 4+ year degree will take at least up to 10 years before it becomes profitable. Now, despite what people think, a lot of these trade jobs do make a lot of money. There are mechanics who make $100,000+ a year just being a mechanic, or engineer, or a welder, or construction worker. There are these trade jobs that are lacking in people that desperately need people, where people can make a lot of money, but they don't go into them because they're not as appealing as some sort of like stupid ass desk job.
To do as much.
I mean, I guess, would you say that there's probably different interests in general between the genders?
Now there's like much more of a push to get women into STEM, so there's like more of that, but when I was younger there wasn't really that going on.
So it does raise the question, does feminism account for the advancements made, or will they have happened regardless? And if so, is feminism more important than ever to preserve progress and also to prevent regression towards inequality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should remain. Originally, it's not a toxic thing. Again, what modern society has morphed it into, especially, you know, things like social media, it has turned it into more of a superiority kind of cloak than it is actually pushing equal rights.
I think this girl really hits the nail on the head, because I don't hate what true feminism stands for. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, that I don't want to have any rights. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think feminism was ever a good thing, because I do think that we should have equality, but where it is now is totally unsustainable. It is actually certifiably toxic for our society. I do believe that it is, you know, a big contributing factor to our downfall, but I'm not somebody that will say that, you know, I think all feminism was bad. Obviously, there are people that do say that. They're entitled to their opinions. There actually is some really interesting literature about, you know, the connection between feminism and the downfall of societies and civilizations, and we're kind of seeing that right now, but most of it was when this kind of feminism got really rabid and angry, and so I think we can separate the two, but it is an interesting discussion to have.
So it did make me think, are we at a point now where there's actually male inequality in the West? And in a video titled exactly that seems to be the case.
My latest book is Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling and What to Do About it.
But is he just one of those red pill, misogynistic, cisgendered anti-feminists? And what he found through his research is that women are leaving men behind in advanced metrics like education and the workforce. In the 70s, Title IX was implemented to close a 13% gap in college degrees between men and women, but now there's a 15% gap in favor of women with degrees. So today, there's evidence that there's inequality on both sides. Are men trash?
Cis, heterosexual men, absolutely, especially white men.
Weren't you just talking about equality?
Oh, absolutely. But we have to have that viewpoint because of how much we've been attacked just by that gender.
But you just said that all straight men are trash. Like, that's a pretty big generalization, don't you think?
It definitely is. It's not necessarily something I'm gonna like saying via statistics. I'm saying via experience.
Are men trash?
No, I like my dad. He's not trash, so most men are trash.
I don't think men are trash. Men just have more advantages. But like I said, like I wouldn't want to be on the front lines of like, you know, some army. I don't.
That's when feminism goes out the window, right?
Yeah, that's it. 100% does.
All right, so you're saying the quiet part out loud again. It's not consistent. What principles is feminism actually standing on these days? Obviously, it's not about equality anymore. Like, women are dominating and beating men at their own game. We basically live in a matriarchy at this point. And then when push comes to shove, that feminism, that female empowerment just flies out the window, like she was saying. Because it's easier to claim your female status. Oh, I'm a woman. I can't do that. Men have to do that. After you...
In today's generation of feminism, of feminists, only comes into play when it benefits them. As soon as it comes to something that will not benefit them, it will be a detriment to them, they go into saying, oh, I'm just a woman, I'm fragile. But as soon as it's something that inconveniences them, that should benefit them, they go, well, I'm a feminist, I'm empowered. it's dumb bullshit.
You've spent years shaming them, saying that they're trash. But you don't want to go to the front lines? You don't want to deal with that man stuff? You don't want to have to be tough during hard times?
Why do you think women are allowed to say that men are trash, but men can't say that women are trash?
Because, I mean, just based off of history, you know, men have been the dominant sex. I mean, not even really 100 years ago, women were more of an obtained piece of property.
Sometimes women are trash. But I think more men than women, for sure.
It's one of the many double standards.
That's because of what feminism has turned into. It's no longer about the equality of men and women. It is more the differences between men and women.
I think that we need to get rid of terms like feminism. Feminism is more of like a suppression of masculine energy, essentially. Getting rid of that sense of like dominance of one over the other would be the better society to exist in.
Because if negative attention wasn't enough, it's now becoming harder to be a feminist, even if you're a feminist.
Yes.
For years, the author of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, identified as a feminist who advocated for women's rights, whether it be speaking out or through donations or advocacy. But in 2020, it was as if none of that mattered anymore. After expressing concern on Twitter what constitutes of women, she was berated by activists as misogynistic and most notably a TERF. TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist and is an acronym used by trans activists to describe someone as transphobic for believing that gender is based on biological sex.
Crazy.
Due to this, Rowling has faced strong criticism to a point where it has impacted her legacy. The new video game Hogwarts Legacy is labeled so controversial to a point where Twitch streamers are refusing to play it for fear of being called transphobic. And similarly, it's this extremism masked as inclusion that's dividing the feminist movement from within and confusing the original message of equality for all.
And this behavior is not exclusive to feminism. You can be the most progressive person in the world. You can give the left, you can give the social justice warriors everything. And if you make one wrong misstep, if you say anything that is not that approved groupthink, they will rip you to shreds.
Social justice, 1, 2, 3.
They do not care how.
It's group mentality, which is never a good mentality, because if one person goes against the group, the rest of the group will just dogpile on them and beat the shit out of them. Group mentality is never good.
How much money you've given, how many rallies you've gone to, how woke, how progressive, how much of a victim you've been.
Would you say you're a feminist yourself?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say I'm not a feminist. I just think that like the word feminism needs to be redefined.
What should it be called?
I don't know. Seeking truth and justice and equality. I don't know.
The men are trash group?
No, men are not trash.
And so if women are hesitating to identify with the movement, it's likely due to the impact of the extreme. Because if equality is achieved through bringing others down, it's creating issues where none exist, perpetuating double standards.
Yep.
But with that said, feminism is needed. While true equality may be difficult to achieve and some may not actually desire it, nothing significant ever came about through indifference. The pendulum is ever swinging, and we need individuals who push for progress and serve as a check to maintain balance. But today, how can we even navigate differences if we can't even question the nuance? I guess it's up to me to lead the way, and it all starts with exploring the unfamiliar.
This guy is awesome. I like everything that he's doing. That's a very, very cool premise. I like how he's, interweaving this research that he's done, which is, really, really...
I agree with what he said. That despite all the negative connotations that have come along onto the feminism thanks to the third wave, it will be needed as a way of a check and balance. So we strive for true equality amongst both the genders. But I don't know if we'll ever be truly achieved. But to keep it, we need to rear back feminism to what it originally was. Because right now it is turned into this amalgamation of hate and negativity and superiority. This third generation has turned it away from equality into superiority. We need to somehow turn it back to what it originally was, because it no longer is. And you can tell it's gotten to that point as soon as there are people who are having a difficult time trying to associate with feminism. As soon as there are people who have a hard time associating with it, it's gone wrong. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I do have a streaming channel over on Twitch, and I have other social medias and a Discord that you can all join. Links to all of them are in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Oh, if there are anything else you'd like to see me react to, please comment them down below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Bye-bye.